Okay, dear folks, this is the fifth video lecture or the first lecture after our midterm. And for this lecture, we'll continue our discussion of the so-called multiculturalism and global perspective. But in this particular, lecture, I just want to continue with the 10 forces that, according to Thomas Friedman, help flatten the world, help to make the world become flat. So in a flat world, when the whole world is flat, as a university student, as a young person, what you need to do to prepare yourself for this changing world, for this new world. You could say, before it was the old world, now is the new world, especially when the world becomes flat. You are facing new challenges that might not occur in the past. So for this particular lecture, I would like to focus on the so-called the skill set, okay? The kind of skills that as a young university student, you need to prepare yourself for the future. But before I get started, I just want to remind you, for this lecture, I'm still, based upon the book, The World is Flat, written by Thomas Friedman. And starting from next week, we might be able to move away from Thomas Friedman and get started with some new perspective about this issue. But by all means, Thomas Friedman is still considered one of the very influential writers in terms of globalization, internationalization, given the fact that now we have the virus, the so-called COVID-19 virus, and a lot of people begin to question the validity of globalization, of internationalization. Instead, people begin to argue after what is happening in the context of COVID-19. When we return back to normal, the world will no longer be the same. So a lot of scholars have started to argue this event, this serious virus event, might mark a watershed. Watershed in Chinese we call 分水岭. In our thinking, in our discussion of internationalization, of globalization, even of the so-called supply chain. So instead, in the near future, countries might start to adopt the so-called protectionism, a new policy for isolation, for taking care of its own self-interests. This will be something we can discuss in the coming weeks. But for this particular lecture, I will base my observation, my argument on the world is flat. But before we get started, I would like to show you a photo of this gentleman. If you're familiar with like SpaceX, one of the most powerful space companies in the world now. But don't forget, SpaceX is owned not by the nation. It's not a national company. It's owned by private. It's a private company, okay, SpaceX. Or now it becomes more and more well-known, more and more popular, the so-called Tesla, okay, 自动车, 电动车, okay, Tesla. Even in Taiwan, Tesla is available. If you are familiar with SpaceX, you're familiar with Tesla, then you should know about this person called Elon Musk. Elon Musk, I believe now and in the future will be considered as one of the big shots, one of the most influential people in the whole world. When we are moving toward the 22nd century or the 23rd century, and we look back 100 years before, people might begin to recognize the importance, the influence of Elon Musk. But to me, I show this photo to you. I mentioned Elon Musk to you just to let you know, actually, to me, Elon Musk is a big dreamer. So as a young university student, you need to become a big dreamer. If you cannot be a big dreamer, then you cannot make, like a good quest in the future, a good journey for you to explore yourself, to explore the world. So bear in mind, if you are interested in this person, actually his biography is both available in Chinese and in English. Here is the Chinese version, but even the English version is available and it's quite readable. Okay, it's quite readable. So bear in mind Elon Musk as your model of the big dreamer. This is another big dreamer, and I mentioned this person to you a few times, especially in the beginning of this class. Christopher Columbus, okay, in the 15th century, in the early 19th century. It was due to Christopher Columbus that the whole history of the world has been changed, okay, because it's due to Christopher Columbus that the new continent, that today's America was discovered. So his discovery of America started the so-called Western quests, new quests for the whole world, new discovery of the whole world, and eventually leads to the so-called Western colonization of the whole world, create what we have today, the so-called West, the Western world, the Wests, okay? And Christopher Columbus actually was born not in today's China, not in today's America. In other words, he was born not in a big country, not in a superpower. He was born in today's Italy. At that time, even Italy was not a country, was not an independent state, okay? But because of his dream to explore the world, so eventually he discovered America. And the year he set sail, he started his journey, 1492, historical speaking, is very important because 1492 marks a new era in the history of the world. So bear in mind, Columbus, another big dreamer, okay? And I think I just used the cover of Business Weekly, okay, one of the very popular, influential, magazine in Taiwan. We call 商业周刊. One day I came upon this issue, and the cover has these few words as, the focus, the highlight of the whole issue. 台湾哥伦布. Actually, this has been what I've been, trying to teach to my students. In other words, no matter you are in Taiwan or in some other places, you need to dream big. You need to have a big dream like Elon Musk, like Christopher Columbus. So I hope all the young people in Taiwan, they need to have some big dream. They can eventually become Columbus, who comes from Taiwan, not Columbus from Italy. Okay, so just bear in mind, okay, to me, or the purpose of this course is to develop in you some big dream so that you want to go outside, go overseas to make your fortune, to explore the world, okay? So bear in mind, this is something that this course is designed for, okay? Designed to cultivate, to develop you as a big dreamer, to become the so-called Columbus in Taiwan, okay, or Columbus from Taiwan. So back to Thomas Friedman's book. You remember Thomas Friedman talked about the 10 forces that have flattened the world. In other words, what the forces that make the whole world flat, according to Thomas Friedman, he identified in the book 10 forces. And I believe you will also test it in your midterm about these forces. And you still remember the very key or the very first force that Thomas Friedman identified before the world becomes flat is the fall of the Berlin Wall in the year 1989. So given the fact that the world is flat, there is no barriers, no obstacles for you to travel from one place to another, from one country to another country. In other words, young people, because of this new development, are facing a new world, a new life situation, a new work situation, a new workplace. So how to make yourself successful in the new world, in the new environment? So Thomas Friedman, in particular, wrote the book "The World is Flat," as I mentioned in the first class, actually as a warning to young people in the United States, saying if young people in the United States do not wake up to the reality, very soon all the jobs in the whole world will be taken away, will be occupied by young people from India, by young people from China, by young people from some other emerging countries. That is one of the very important purposes for him to write "The World is Flat," actually as a warning, as an advice to young people in the United States. So in the book, Thomas Friedman created a term called the untouchable. Okay, in chapter 6 called Finding the New Middle. We have the middle class, okay? But we realize the middle class is sort of disappearing, okay? Instead, the new middle class is rising. So to Thomas Friedman, if you want to survive in a flat world, if you want to become a success in a flat world, at least you need to become a new middle. And we will refer to the new middle later on. But he in particular create the term called the untouchable. Actually, the untouchable, the word itself, okay, is an Indian term the term comes from India because in India, because of its very strict caste system, 种姓制度、阶级制度, because it's very serious class, system, caste system. In India, there are a lot of people who are at the so-called lowest, at the bottom of society, like beggars, okay, like people who have to stay on the street for the night. 流民, for example, they are the so-called bottom, the lowest class in society. And in India, they call those people the untouchable. Don't touch those people because those people are dangerous just because they are infectious. Like today's virus. If you touch these people, you get infected. Okay? So the untouchable. But to Thomas Friedman, he just turned the world upside down by focusing what is meant by untouchable. Untouchable means you will stay in your job forever. Your manager, your boss cannot do anything against you because you're untouchable. You cannot be replaced. So job security, okay? So he argued in chapter 6 of his book, the key to thriving here, thriving means to success, as an individual in a flat world is figuring out how to make yourself an untouchable. Okay? In Chinese, untouchable 就碰不得的人，好像碰到了会被触电。Okay, untouchable. So in India, untouchable are the lowest social class, but in a flat world, everyone should want to be an untouchable. In other words, obviously, Thomas Friedman is turn the world upside down, okay? Using the word in a new sense. So what is meant by the untouchable? Untouchable are those people whose job cannot be outsourced. We talked about outsourcing last week. 外包. If your job can be outsourced, then very soon you find yourself jobless. You simply lose your job because your job can be taken, can be replaced by people with lower wages or lower salary with less costs, okay? Or your job cannot be digitized. If your job can be digitized, then you are not, untouchable, okay? Digitized, of course, means 数位化, okay? Today, we are living in the so-called digital era. Everything could be digitized. And if your job can be easily digitized, then very soon again, you will find yourself jobless. Or your job cannot be automated, can be taken away by automation, by machine. Okay, and actually, a lot of jobs today, especially in traditional manufacturing company, a lot of jobs are already taken by, automation, by machines. Now we have a new threat, the so-called artificial intelligence. When Thomas Friedman wrote the book, as I mentioned before, actually, AI at that time was not that fashionable, was not that popular at that time. If he begins to write a new book of the same content, I believe he would include artificial intelligence as one of the very important forces that helps make the world flat. So these are the so-called untouchable. In other words, the key point is you have to make yourself the so-called indispensable. Nobody can replace you. Indispensable. You create your value for the market, for the company you work with. Okay, so untouchable is the key concept. So, according to Thomas Friedman, every young person in this flat world should try to cultivate to make themselves untouchable. Okay, I also mentioned what are the untouchable. The untouchable, according to Thomas Friedman, are the new middle. I said we used to have the middle class, but according to Thomas Friedman, the middle class today is disappearing because the old middle class have been taken by machines. So that's the reason why the old middle class has disappeared. Instead, Thomas Friedman emphasized there are some jobs, some classes of people who should be termed the so-called the new middle class. So who are the new middle class? He identified 8 classes of people, which he called the new middle. The first type is so-called collaborators and orchestrators. Collaborate, you work together with other people. So collaborator or orchestrators obviously refer to a person who can work with other people. In other words, a person with very good team spirit. Okay, teamship. So 团队的能力, okay, that is one of the key skills for today's young people. Then the second type is the so-called synthesizers. Synthesizers 有综合能力. Okay, you learn this from this source, you learn that from other sources, but eventually you learn the pros and the cons, the for and against, 正的反的, but eventually you need to be able to synthesize different viewpoints into one whole. This is another class of people that, according to Thomas Friedman, is the so-called the new middle or the untouchable. The third one is the so-called explainer. There are a lot of things that just come out as new stuff. So we need people who can explain to make complicated machines or complicated issue simple, called explainer. Okay? 解说员啊, okay? Explainer. Or leveragers. Leverage is a key word. Leverage means make good use of, means take advantage of. Leveragers refer to people who can leverage technology. We have so many technologies today, and technology is moving very fast. But we need to have good people who need to learn how to make good use of the technology. For example, today we are moving in the so-called AI era. If you want to make good use of AI, what do you need? Of course, you need to learn the so-called programming language, for example. Okay, you need to have some idea about big data, for example. So with those kind of knowledge ready, then you can really take advantage of new technology. You can really, make good use of technology. These are the third type of people that, according to Thomas Friedman, should be the so-called new middle. And if you have these kind of skills, you will make yourself untouchable. I think the fifth type is easy to understand, adapter. The world is changing, and we have to find a way to adapt ourselves, 适应, okay, adapt ourselves, adjust ourselves to the changing world, to the changing situation. So if you find yourself easy to adapt yourself to a new environment, then you are a good adapter. Then the sixth type is the so-called green people. What does it mean by green people? Green refer to, green energy, 绿色能源, green. So the green people are people who are engaged in the so-called sustainable or renewable jobs. And we believe sustainability or renewable energy will become the future of the whole world. So if you're engaged in green, jobs, then you will become the untouchable, the new middle. Okay? Then the seventh type is the so-called passionate personizers. Not just a personizer, but passionate. In other words, according to Thomas Friedman, it doesn't matter what job you are doing, but when you are engaged in the job, you need to add a personal, intangible dimension to your work. In other words, make your work, make your service so unique, so individualistic. This is what is meant by the so-called passionate personizers. So we can easily observe how come some people in the service sector become more successful than other people, because they are the so-called passionate personizers. And the last type is the so-called great localizers. Okay, when we talk about internationalization, actually international and local are two sides of the same coin. Okay, on one side you see international, the other side you see local. So actually localization and internationalization are not always in conflict. Imagine if you have a lot of people coming overseas, they come to Taiwan, for example, they come to Wufeng, for example. What do these people want to experience in Wufeng, in Taiwan? Of course, something that is unique, something that is special, something that cannot be found in other places, something that is unique in this area. So localizers is important, okay? So what is the localizer? It means people who can adapt, okay, the new tools to local needs and local demands. Make good use of the new tools made by technology for local purpose, for local needs. So bear in mind, these 8 types of people, according to Thomas Friedman, are the so-called new middle, as a term to replace the traditional middle class. And Thomas Friedman believed the untouchable should be the new middle. And if you go through the list, you come to realize what is emphasized here is the so-called cross-boundary, cross-disciplinary skills, 跨领域的知识，跨领域的职能. That is the reason why here at Asia University we emphasize in our curriculum design the concept, the practice, the need of cross-disciplinary, skills. And then Thomas Friedman also in the book, actually in chapter 7 of the book, in particular point out 5 skill sets or 5 aptitudes toward learning. In other words, if you want to become untouchable in a flat world, of course, you need to learn. But what skills for you to learn? And according to Thomas Friedman, these are the 5 important skills. Okay, so as a young university student, just try to listen to or follow what Thomas Friedman suggests or advises here. The first skill, according to Thomas Friedman, is learning how to learn. And from my personal experience, I think this is one of the most important skills of any college or university students. You come to a college, you come to a university. For what purpose? Of course, to study, to learn. Then to learn what? To study what? This is my question. Actually, you come here to study, to learn how to learn. So this is important. 学习如何学习? Because new technologies are changing so fast. New disciplines are coming out so soon. All disciplines, are replaced so soon. So if you do not learn how to learn, then very soon you come to realize you can no longer catch up with the new development. Of course, you learn how to learn. At the same time, you need to learn how to unlearn. Unlearn. Get rid of something that you have learned. Because in the past, we might have learned something that proved to be biased, that proved to be wrong. So we have to get rid of something that is wrong in our learning. So we call unlearn. But at the same time, by learning how to learn, we should try to learn how to relearn. So you have three key words here. To learn. But before you learn, you do learning, you have to do unlearn. 把学会的先丢掉，因为那是不好的。Unlearn. Okay, put un as the prefix. And then after you have done with unlearning, then you restart your learning. It's called relearn. Prefix is re. So in terms of learn, we have learned, we have unlearned, we have relearned. The second skill is so-called navigation, and you might be a little bit confused. What is meant by navigation? Navigator is like a sailor in the ocean, like a sea goer in the ocean, 海上的一个水手 or like the astronaut in the universe, 或者宇宙的太空人 That's called navigator. So the skill of navigation means because today we are bombarded with too much information. Every day we are facing, all different types of news, all different types of information. But some information, some news are just fake, just not true. 假新闻、假消息. Some news, some information are just useless, worthless. But if we cannot tell the useful information from the unuseful information, then we are simply wasting our time, our life. So the skill of navigation, especially in a time when we have so much data, we have so much information, this is an important skill to find out, to look for what we really need, what is really useful to us. So this is called navigation, emphasizing we are living in an age of mass information. Okay? I think the third skill is quite interesting. CQ plus PQ is greater, is more than IQ. I think we all know IQ. Okay, if you are quite clever, you are quite intelligent, people will say, okay, you have high IQ. Your intelligence, okay, IQ. Everybody knows IQ, okay? But how about PQ? How about CQ? What does C refer to? Q, we all know Q, okay? I refer to intelligence. What are more important than intelligence? According to Thomas Friedman, here P refer to passion. 热忱的指数，不是知识的指数。Okay, passion. In other words, to Thomas Friedman, and I personally agree with his viewpoint. Actually, passion is more important than intelligence. Whatever you do, you need to have passion for it. A person without passion simply cannot become a success. Okay? Another keyword is CQ. What is meant by CQ? C, you can make a good guess. C refers to curiosity. You need to be curious. Otherwise, how could you learn? You need to be curious about new things. We remember the commencement address delivered by Steve Jobs at Stanford University. He emphasized in his commencement address the importance of following one's curiosity. Steve Jobs says, if you want to become a success in your career, in your life, just follow your curiosity. 跟随你的好奇心啊 ，OK， 或者听听你的好奇心的指引。That's to Steve Jobs 贾博士的一个名言。According to Steve Jobs, this is important. Okay, so Thomas Friedman certainly agree with curiosity and passion. Put these two together are more important than your IQ. Of course, today in the job market, we also talk about EQ, your emotion, 情绪智商 emotion. You need to be able to display, to show your discipline. Okay, don't make yourself, too emotional. For example, the fourth skill, according to Thomas Friedman, for a young person to learn in a flat world is the so-called liberal arts. Stressing liberal arts. Here, stressing means emphasizing the importance of liberal arts. You know liberal arts, right? 人文艺术 According to Thomas Friedman, liberal arts are important. How come liberal arts are important? If we use again Steve Jobs' commencement address at Stanford University, there Steve Jobs told the audience three stories. The first story he wants to emphasize is the so-called connecting dots. Sometimes you realize you learn something here, you learn something there, you learn something in Taiwan, you learn something overseas. And this small something at that time seems unrelated. But when you look, behind, you come to realize all those small dots are actually related. And what force that help relate these small dots, according to Thomas Friedman, according to Steve Jobs, that's the liberal arts. Okay, so liberal arts, even today, in the age of artificial intelligence, in the age of big data, in the age of new technology, liberal arts should be emphasized in the university curriculum. okay, connecting the dots. Okay, of course, through liberal arts, we learn a lot of the so-called imaginative power. And through our imagination, we can try to connect all small dots. Okay? The fifth and the last skill, according to Thomas Friedman, is the right brain stuff. This is the traditional belief in medical science that a human being has two brains, the right brain and the left brain. The left brain takes care of our reasoning, take care of our analytical, ability, whereas the right brain takes care of or affects our emotion, our feeling. And by arguing, emphasizing the right brain stuff, Thomas Friedman here tried to say, we need to develop very good, the so-called not IQ, EQ here. Here, actually, Thomas Friedman is addressing the importance of EQ. In other words, in social dealing, in a social life, how to, display appropriate, proper feeling, emotion, how to, become a good social person, how to be good at socializing, social life. This is something, Thomas Friedman advised young people to learn. Of course, today, we all know that a lot of young people, because they are addicted to cell phone, to games, they have no daily or realistic interaction with other people. So a lot of young people, they simply fail to be a good, socializer, fail to be good at social life. And this is something for Thomas Friedman to emphasize. Try to develop, try to make good use of your right brain, okay? Okay, so this is some detail that I use to talk about these 5 skills, okay? And we have the Chinese here. You can, for those who find, English not that easy to understand, you can resort to the Chinese. So the first, to learn how to learn. So you have to love learning, or you have to at least enjoy learning, okay? This is something for you to learn in the very beginning. At least love learning or enjoy learning. The second is navigation. And I just also mentioned navigation, the ability to sort out, 找寻, to search for information, okay, that is non-useful and inaccurate, and in doing so acquiring desirable information that can be used and is contextual and reliable for purpose of your research, okay? So some people argue a very potential and very worthy job in the future is the so-called big data analysts, okay? Because you know how to analyze, how to sort out the data, the information. So PQ plus PQ is more than IQ. P referred to passion here, okay? Q, as I said, referred to curiosity, okay? According to Steve Jobs, you need to follow your curiosity if you want to become a success in life. And then stress in liberal arts, okay? In the past, we used to think the so-called vertical thinking. Vertical 是垂直, from bottom to up. But in a flat world, when the world is flat, we need to move from vertical thinking to horizontal thinking. And when we do horizontal thinking, then the liberal arts play a key role in this integration. Okay, so it's a skill for integration. Another important book in this regard is a book by Zakaria, okay, Professor Zakaria, called In Defense of a Liberal Education. In other words, the book was published about 5 years ago. In this book, he in particular emphasized the importance of liberal education, even in the age of new technology. Okay. Then the fifth one is you were talking about develop your right brain, using the right side of your brain, believing the right brain will affect our emotion, will affect our social skill. And young people today need good social skills, not just for themselves, also in the job market. Okay, so Thomas Friedman emphasized, if you have good social skill, that will become a good asset, okay, 资产 in your career, in your life. Okay, these are the 5 skill sets or 5 attitudes for you to learn as a young person, as a young university student. Then I want to emphasize before we close the lecture, there's another important book. This time is by Derek Bok, okay? And we know Derek Bok. He was the former president of Harvard University, 哈佛大学前校长. He wrote a book called Our Underachieving Colleges. We do have a Chinese translation of this book entitled 大学教了没, the book, okay? And in this particular book, Our Underachieving College, Derek Bok especially used a subtitle to highlight his purpose, a candid, honest look at how much students learn and why they should be learning more. According to Derek Bok, young students, they are learning, but they are not learning enough. They should learn more. And he believed these 8 lessons, these 8 skills, or sometimes he would use these 8 competences, core competences, 核心能力 are what a young person, what a young college student, university student need to learn. The first ability, to our surprise, he pointed out, the first ability for a young college student to learn is the ability to communicate. Communication skill is always important, okay? 沟通技巧的能力. The second one is the so-called critical thinking. We need to be able to think critically, not just follow other people's opinions, okay? The third one is called moral reasoning. And this is something important for us to learn. 就道德推理以及道德实践. In other words, we need to be a responsible world citizen. We need to have good moral sense. We need to have a high morality, okay? So moral reasoning, how to do that is one of those competence that Derek Bok emphasized for a young college student. The fourth skill, the fourth competence is called citizen preparation. We are a citizen of a country, but today we are living in a global society, so we need to get prepared for a world citizen, a citizen of the world, 世界公民. Okay, this is 公民责任, your ability. Okay, then we are living in a diversity, 多元的, okay, multiculturalism. Diversity, we could also argue multiculturalism. So we need to develop the ability to live with diversity. In other words, we need to see things from different perspectives, okay, from different angles. No single angle, no single perspective is the only correct, is the only right perspective. We need to see things from different perspectives. This is called 多元文化, more or less like the very title of this course, multiculturalism. The sixth skill is living in a more global society, and this is, self-evident. We are living in a more global society. So how to prepare ourselves to live in a more global society? What skills are needed to adapt ourselves to a more global society is what we need to learn as a college student. Then we need to develop a breadth of interests. A breadth, in other words, we need to have all different kinds of interests, not just focus on one interest. Okay, our interest should be wide, should be far, 要多要很宽广的 interests. Of course, the last one, Derry Bach in particular mentioned, and I think this is important for us to remember, as a college student, when you graduate from a university, when you graduate from a college, what are you going to do? Of course, you are going to the job market. You are going to the company. You are going to the industry. You are going to the manufacturing, companies. So you need to develop your professional skill for work. So that is the reason why 就业力 employment has been emphasized as one of the skills for any young college student. If you graduate from university, if you graduate from college and you come to realize you cannot get employed, you are jobless, how frustrating it could be. 一毕业即失业. This is very frustrating experience. That is the reason why Derry Bach in particular emphasized the importance for any young college student to learn, or to prepare for work. And I think this is the last slide for this course, for this lecture. Okay, there's a framework for 21st century learning called P21. Okay, framework for 21st century. So I think, this is something for you to think about. Here, the green area, the key part is so-called the key subjects. The 3 R's refer to the traditional reading, writing, arithmetic, these kind of 3 basic key subjects, okay? Of course, these traditional basic subjects, you need to have the so-called 21st century themes. In other words, use the 21st century themes as your content, okay? And then, of course, on the right-hand side, you need to learn information, technology, media technology, technology skills, okay? 资讯、科技、媒体的 skills. And on the left-hand side here, you need to have life skills, 生活的能力. You need to have career skills. Don't forget, life still needs skills. Okay? And then in the yellow part here, learning and innovation skills. Okay? Like you have 3 C's. And these 3 C's are also emphasized by today's college or university education. 3 C's. C refer to critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and then creativity. All these 3 C's have been emphasized by Thomas Friedman, also by Derry Bach. And then, of course, to fulfill all this learning purpose, you have assessment, you have curriculum, you have professional development, you have learning environment. You could call all these the so-called supporting mechanisms, supporting system, 支撑的系统. So these supporting systems are for all these learning activities. So bear in mind, this is the so-called framework for 21st century learning, and a lot of scholars have a lot of teachers have argued this 21st century learning framework should be the right framework for 21st century. So with this framework, I end the talk. Thank you very much.